Let us bow in a word of prayer. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together in this place, God, to conduct the people's business. God, we ask that you gird all the leaders in this place with your Holy Spirit, God, granting them a peace that surpasses all understanding. Grant them favor as they conduct business, God, in a way that is pleasing unto you, God. Allow a spirit of collaboration to overtake them, God, as they do what's needed to move forward the city of eternal light. We lift up our first responders, God. We thank you for their service, God, that you're keeping them safe even on nights like tonight. God, we thank you right now in advance, God, that the best days for the village are ahead of us. We honor women this month, God, in a way that just thanks the grace that you've given them to operate the way they do. We celebrate them right now in the name of Jesus. We thank you for these things and more. It's in Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Pledges to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I need approval of minutes for our Tuesday, February 6th board meeting. Motion to approve. Motion to approve. I need a second. Second by Trustee Peppers. Approved by Trustee Sanchez. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightford. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon. Mayor Wilbur.
Aye. All right. All right, we have Ms. Banks, our Director of Community Engagement, that will get up for oaths, reports, proclamations, announcements, and votes.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The Village of Maywood extends condolences and prayers to the families in our community that have experienced a recent loss. Mrs. Catherine Robinson passed, mother of village employee Phyllis Zachary. Mr. Bruce Jackson, brother of village employee Korea Martin, and Mrs. Maggie Williams, mother of Maywood resident Sadie Esco. Proclamations. Women's History Month. Where started in 1987, the month of March is nationally recognized as Women's History Month, and whereas women have been leaders in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, emancipation, labor, and civil rights create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas throughout our history, extraordinary women have made significant contributions to the growth and strength of our village, our state, and our nation in countless ways. And whereas despite their contributions, the role of women in history has often been overlooked and undervalued. Therefore, the Honorable Mayor Nathaniel George Booker and the Board of Trustees designate March as Women's History Month in the Village of Maywood and pay tribute to the women who have served and currently serves the Village of Eternal Light as elected and appointed officials, commissioners, volunteers, staff, and countless others who are committed to improving the quality of life in the community of Maywood. Please note, Village Hall will be closed on Friday, March 29th in observance of Good Friday. We also remind you to visit our website at maywood-il.gov to stay abreast of all current and upcoming events in the Village of Maywood, and also to sign up for My Civic on your mobile devices to receive village alerts. Mayor and Board, at this time, we would like to watch a video highlighting one of the organizations in our community, Operation Uplift in the West Town Museum of Cultural History, who was featured on the news during Black History Month.
Our state is sprinkled with underground railroad stops, secret abolitionist hubs where traveling African Americans could find safety and help on their sojourn to freedom.
One of those stops is in Maywood, just 11 miles west of Chicago. WGN's Jewel Hillary brings you a story about a local museum working to bring national recognition to that site while keeping the town's deep connection to Black history alive. The Westtown Museum of Cultural History is something like a hidden treasure tucked away in Maywood at the corner of St. Charles Road and Fifth Avenue. While you're here, you'll definitely learn a lot about national history, but this small but mighty museum makes a point to highlight people with roots and connections to Maywood and Proviso Township, like scientist Percy Julian, Black Panther Fred Hampton, NBA coach Glenn Doc Rivers, and aviator Bessie Coleman.
You. Tell me something about Rosa Parks real quick. Yeah, you.
Dorothy Hall is a lively storyteller.
Rosa Parks paid the same money to get on the bus, to have a seat, and she sat down. Then somebody else came, and they said, get up. And she didn't want to get up.
She brings the wealth of history,
This place has so much treasure, jewels.
filling the walls and rooms of the Westtown Museum of Cultural History to life for local fourth graders.
All right, this side here is all about the
Her goal, to inspire and educate them about Black history.
we came from wealthy kings and queens.
80% of the museum focuses on African American history. The tightly packed walls inside share vital stories most history books don't tell.
Black history is American history. You can't separate them.
From exhibits on local military heroes, politicians, and Maywood's first Black families, Executive Director George Stone II wants visitors to appreciate the sacrifices and leadership of everyday people.
It's a self-esteem booster for youth in this community.
Like you, play basketball, have fun, went to Proviso.
One of the local lessons comes from the Suburban Echo Reporter. In 1967, Fred Hampton, the deputy chairman of the National Black Panther Party, led a student walkout at Proviso East High School after Black students were treated unfairly. 200 students were suspended, and the U.S. Department of Justice and the NAACP stepped in to get students back to class.
This is Fort Dearborn.
Each year, lessons like this attract fourth grade teacher Rebecca Dunkel back for a field trip.
There's so many resources and information here that the kids always leave. They write these great thank you notes about what they learned and what they didn't know.
The Westtown Museum of Cultural History is here thanks to the dedication of George's mom, Mrs. Northica Hillary Stone, who died in 2018. If the last name Hillary rings a bell, that's because Northica and George are my cousins. Unfortunately, I never met Northica, who was highly respected as a community pillar and worked tirelessly for decades helping minorities access jobs and training through Operation Uplift, the nonprofit she led with her husband, George Sr. The museum opened inside of the Operation Uplift headquarters in 1995. And soon after, Northica and the museum's first curator, Lorietta Stinson, affectionately called Jerry, came across a significant find.
She discovered, along with my mother's research, the Underground Railroad and received the Studs Terkel Award for her research.
According to that research, a 10-mile freedom house used to hide freedom seekers running from slavery stood on the land where the McDonald's is at First Avenue and Lake Street at the Des Plaines River in Maywood.
It was part of the freedom quest for folks in the 1850s and 60s.
Mike Rogers serves as an advisory council for the museum. He created a model of the Freedom House as an exhibit and also designed a memorial for the Underground Railroad location outside of McDonald's.
To stand there and realize this was a part of the land where people were starting to taste this thing that we now know as freedom.
Before her death, Northica tried to have the site nationally recognized by the National Park Service Registry. That designation requires gathering a load of historical documents as proof and submitting a lengthy application. George is now leading the effort, but it's a challenge with 2 staff members and volunteers.
Freedom seekers came from Mississippi, Alabama, and Texas. The actual structure was a known structure, very mysterious structure, but known to see Negro bodies cowering down in the bushes at night, and a lot of rumor about that.
Along with securing National Underground Railroad designation, George also wants to fulfill another one of his mom's dreams. And that's to build a brand new museum next door.
She wanted an African Kwanzaa type structure, multi-level, with a gallery and such.
This side is all about Maywood and...
A large space will allow more students and visitors to experience the rich history inside, each piece placed over the years with precision and love.
What it's all about is shedding light onto things that might otherwise be in darkness. And the Operation Uplifting the West Town Museum becomes the shedding of that light on things that might be completely lost.
Come on, come on, come on.
Reporting in Maywood, I'm Jewel Hillary, WGN News.
If you'd like to learn more about the Westtown Museum of Cultural History, you can click on the story on our website at WGNTV.com. Tomorrow night, WGN celebrates Black History Month.
Alright, if you all haven't been to the West Town Museum, I strongly encourage you all to go. It is an amazing experience.
Mayor,
Trustee?
yeah, under announcements, I want to give my condolences to Proviso Bill's family and to the family of Sherrod Johnson, who passed just recently. And so we know that the Proviso Bill's organization has been very active in the community for some time. Sherrod was one of the founders of the Proviso Bills, and so he passed just the other day. And I just want to offer my condolences to the family, the Proviso Bills team, and to the those who are impacted by his loss. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Amen. We do a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, moving into financial management reports. 8A, 8B, 8C. Our Director of Finance is not present with us tonight, so I would encourage if you have any questions in regards to finance, if you could just reach out to the finance department to get any of those answers. And looking at Village President's report, so just for ensuring we stay on track tonight, anything under Village President's report, Village Attorney's report, or Village Manager's report that's actually under old business or new business, we'll talk about it in old business and new business, and we'll treat those items as information for the top part. So, are there any questions? Pretty much everything in the President's report pertains to something in old business or new business. So I'm going to move us along to public comment. For public comment, you give your name, you have to give your address. You have 3 minutes.
Summer Roberts. Hello,
It's like a green, it should be a green light.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees, and public. My name is Summer Roberts.
Hello.
How you doing? Some of you may know me. I'm wearing a couple of different hats, but mainly I'm here today wearing my Maywood Chamber of Commerce hat. But by day, I work at Loyola University Chicago. I'm the Director of Neighborhood Initiatives, and for the past 2 years, I've been working more closely with the Maywood community. And for the first time in history of the university, we actually have someone from the university side more active in the community. And as part of my role, I joined the chamber board. I was invited to join the chamber board less than 2 years ago. And it's been a roller coaster. I am now the chair of the board, just that quickly. But I'm here to advocate for support for the chamber in the allocation of some of the federal funds that you all will be voting on. I believe it is tonight. And I just wanted to share that we continue to advocate for the use of those funds to be utilized by the chamber to provide programmatic initiatives that will support the success of the Maywood business community and all of the work that the folks up here and these great folks have been doing to make this community a viable economic powerhouse that it should be. And we want to help incentivize local entrepreneurs, attract shoppers, and strengthen business owners. We believe that a healthy, viable chamber of commerce working on behalf of local businesses is good for Maywood. Our goal is to align with the mayor's elements of a Healthy Maywood initiative and the Maywood Comprehensive Plan through wraparound support initiatives that support, promote, and build Maywood and its businesses. We're currently undergoing our own strategic planning process, so we are very actively building the capacity of the organization and realigning our mission and values. And we just want you to know that we're here and we're in support of all your hard work. So, thank you. Oh, and I did bring some goodies. We partnered, my very first partnership with the Chamber of Commerce was to do a guide that all of our loyal students get. It's a local business directory. We've never had one for Maywood. So a whole section of our student business guide is focused on Maywood. So I provided some copies of that and little goodie bags with those in them. So please enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Dorsey.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to wish a couple of our trustees a happy birthday. I brought a cake. Whenever we get to it, we get to it. But Melvin's birthday is tomorrow, and Trustee Brandon's birthday is a few days away, a couple weeks away, correct?
Okay.
Am I calling you out?
A little bit, but yeah, it is.
Happy birthday to you too. So,
thank you.
So we do have some cake, and that's for not only the board, but everybody in the audience as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy birthday.
All right, Summer, thank you for the comments. Definitely look forward to getting the chamber more involved. The Healthy Maywood has been focused on the Good Jobs, Great Cities initiative with National Good Cities and the Cities Inclusive Entrepreneurship, doing great work with various surrounding chambers, so looking forward to more partnership. Okay. Same for the village manager's report. Is there anything that's not a part of old or new business that anyone has a question on? Hearing none, we'll go to village attorney's report. Is there anything under village attorney's report that is not a part of old or new business?
Mayor,
Trustee?
and excuse me if I'm out of place. Village Attorney, were you going to speak on any updates related to the TIF conversation?
Certainly can. It's listed on the agenda. I can quickly hit those if you'd like.
Yeah, I think that if you don't mind just giving us
Attorney Joseph?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody, as you know, over the last 18 months, the village board has moved forward with an initiative to create 4 new TIF districts, adding 4 to the current 2 that are in place for the Roosevelt TIF and the Madison Street, Washington Street TIF. The 4 TIFs span throughout the residential areas, but also pick up some of our other business corridors, such as that part of St. Charles Road that wasn't fully developed when the St. Charles Road TIF expired. So these 4 TIFs are in the process of being implemented, formed. We did have on February 21st the first of a couple public meetings. On February 21st at the 200 building, we had what's called a public meeting to discuss with the public kind of the formation steps and the purpose for creating these, the first of the 4 TIFs, TIF number 1, which is the North Maywood area, bounded by Union Pacific Railroad limits to the South Main Street and the North Village limits. We also, at that February 21st meeting, we had a a public meeting to discuss details about what's called the Mid-South Area 3 TIF district. This is Maywood Drive to Harrison Street. Coming up, we're going to have in April 23rd, we're going to have 2 more public. I believe it's April 23rd. We'll clarify. Yeah, okay, April 22nd, we're going to have a public meetings for TIFs 2 and 4, which pick up the other parts of town. There will be additional public hearings. There will be public hearings later in June, so there'll be more information to come. But a lot of people attended these, the first 2 public meetings. There's a lot of exchange of information. And it's also important to note that the village has a dedicated website link and page where we're putting up information regarding these 4 proposed TIFs, both in English and Spanish, for the community to stay abreast of what's going on.
Mayor?
More to come.
Trustee Sanchez. Question for the attorney. Do you have an anticipated end date when everything should be up and running?
Yeah, there were 2 adoption schedules, and the TIFs 1 and 3 will be formed, by late summer, August-ish, and then TIFs 2 and 4 will be formed probably September, October. We've staggered the schedules because there's a lot of mailings and notices that have to go out to the folks that not only reside inside the TIF, but reside within the 750 feet of the TIF boundaries. So in order to manage mailings and to keep the TIF 1 and TIF 3 residents focused on their path forward, and the TIF 2 and TIF 4 residents focused on their path forward, we've staggered the adoption schedule. So TIF 1 and 3, late summer, TIF 2 and 4, early fall will be the board will get together and make a decision as to whether to move forward to adopt and inform the TIFs or not.
I also wanted to thank you for having this literature in Spanish. I attended these meetings where I was by no means am I an attorney, but I was trying to translate what TIFs were about. Is there a way to have someone or somehow interpret what you're saying at these meetings, not just in the literature format? Because it's hard enough for me personally to understand it in English, let alone in Spanish.
Yeah, so trustee, just a quick update. That was brought up at the first TIF meeting, and then at the second TIF meeting, we asked if anybody needed translation, and they said no. But then for the third and fourth one, Linda, who's the chief, has offered to translate flyers, mailers, and translate for meetings because she's a Maywood resident as well. So we'll make sure if she's not available, then we have some other people within staff that can help facilitate that as well. And then also the township has offered to provide a translator as well.
Thank you.
For any time our staff can't do it.
And we can certainly have the translators there for the TIF 2 and 4 public meetings, and then we will have essentially 4 public hearings. This board will, where it will cover a lot of the same ground. That's all required by the statute that requires the different steps to form the TIFs. So we could have the translators at the public hearings as well.
Please, because a lot of these folks were scared when the literature mailings going home were saying that they're going to lose your home, eminent domain, and that was
the one line we talked about where it says no more than 15 homes will be lost.
Will it be displaced?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the TIF Act has certain language that needed to be contained in the notices. And one of the pieces of information is that in order to have these TIFs created a certain way, you cannot displace more than 10 residences within the TIF. And it's very clear in the materials that we mailed out, and it is very clear on the materials on the website that there's no intent or desire for the board to inform the TIFs to displace them. They're not designed to do that. They're designed to help with infrastructure improvements and home, repair program, streets, water, stormwater drainage. They're also, designed to encourage economic development in the corridor, the business and industrial corridors that are contained in these TIFs. So we did make that clear at the public meetings, but I can see when people read these notices where they would pick up on that. And we do have an FAQ posted on the website as well, and we're mailing that to all of the people that get mailings. And it's very clear in the FAQ that the formation of the TIF isn't going to increase your taxes. It is not going to cause you to lose your home or be displaced. This is really an infrastructure improvement and a quality of life improvement economic tool for the village to use.
Now, if you could say that all in Spanish, it'd be great.
My Spanish is
All right, Trustee Brandon.
On the same topic, Jerusalem. So in June, the village board will vote on the direction it wants to go as it relates to the creation of the 4 different new TIFs. Is that correct?
Two of the TIFs. Those adoption schedules that I handed out give you the schedule.
I think he said August and September, so 1 and 3, August, and then 2 and 4, like September, October, because they're staggered.
Because I know it was stated at the meeting, because I attended both, that there will be a vote in June on 2 of them, right? And so, so that was saying that vote will take place in August.
Hang on a second. Let me just pull up the adoption schedules, and I'll be able to give you the exact dates. Just give me a sec here. If you want to move to the next thing.
All right. So as you pulled up those calendar days, we'll just keep going. So various items under trustee reports are also part of old business and new business. We're going to move to...
Mayor, I had a trustee Mel Mark.
Wait, I'm going to go to the request. So for Infrastructure and Sustainability Committee, trustee, there's a request to appoint a Citizen Advisory Committee member. I spoke with Ms. Viola, who was the Citizen Advisory person. So, I mean, if you could actually submit what this is and then send it over to Ordinance and Policy, so they could actually be discussed in Ordinance and Policy, that'd be great, because we don't have anything to vote on. If it could just go to Ordinance and Policy. So if there's an ordinance, because it requires a vote amendment. So if you could actually put together what you want it to be, because Viola came to the office to talk to me. But I was just saying, again, if it could just go to Ordinance and Policy as a committee and come back.
So yeah, I just want to be clear on making sure that, because I heard that several times from several different people about that being the case. That is totally not the case. And so we do, because of last year, we were having difficulty identifying someone to take the minutes for the meeting. I had identified Ms. Mims to volunteer to come in to ensure that the minutes were taken and that the meeting ran in an organized fashion. But this has been the perspective for some time now, to be able to have the ability to add citizen participation in the work that we do as leaders of the community. It is my personal belief that we've got a way of just being more inclusive as it relates to involving our citizens in the work that we do. So I can speak for everybody committee, but Maywood has a lot of talent in this community and just a lot of wisdom and people who are subject matter experts in these different areas. So the reason why I thought it made total sense to add someone, and we haven't even come up with a criteria, so I don't know even know how names even started being floated around, but of course there will have to be a process in place, one that's open and clear and transparent for those who may want to seek to be involved and engage in the Infrastructure and Sustainability Committee. And so once that is established, we will move forward to promote that opportunity for residents to be involved and engaged. But the whole idea was to, and I had some, a lot of conversation about this, to have, to work with the attorney to be able to drive something, to be able to present to the board for potential consideration to vote on. So what we were looking for this evening is to have the ability to be able to work with the attorney to have something drafted up to be able to present to the board as it relates to what we're looking for as an ordinance amendment to be able to do that. As we all know, all of these different committees that we had prior to the former structure were led by citizens. And so it is our desire on the infrastructure and sustainability committee to get citizens re-engaged in their government, and that was a way to do it. And so what we were looking for tonight, again, is to have the opportunity and the ability to be able to work with the village attorney to draft that amendment for the board review and consideration.
Okay. Thank you for the clarity. But for clarity, you said you don't know how names came, but you said you did have Ms. Viola working doing it, so that's why I guess she came to the office.
Sure.
So when you said you had, again, she came saying that she had taken notes at your meeting, right? So then she wanted clarity on what it would be. I said, I don't know. But to your point, one, when we talked about minutes being taken, the village manager did provide a recorder that could sit and record. We do have staff within the community engagement department to type up the minutes from the recording. There's absolutely nothing to stop you from having a resident be involved in any of the committees. There's nothing, if you wanted to have a whole dais full of residents on your committee, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. But if there's something that you're looking from the ordinance perspective, there's nothing absolutely that stops you from talking to the attorney on crafting language either. So again, if you could just get with the attorney and get whatever needs to be submitted over the ordinance and policy, that'd be great.
Yeah, right. And I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure that I was, bringing things through the appropriate channels. And so that's the reason why I had it presented in that format. But I'll take that. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
I do have those dates. TIF number 1 and 3, the adoption date, the anticipated adoption date for the formation ordinances is set for July 2nd. And then TIFs 2 and 4, the anticipated adoption date for the formation ordinances is set for September 10th. Those are both normal committee of the whole village board meetings nights.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then you have a request to opening village facilities for private use. Again, trustee, I would just say, so right now, we just brought on the consultant for 200 building, the parks, the green space, and village-owned space. The board actually voted not to staff these very facilities. So right now, what's going to happen in April is they're actually going to come with a plan of saying, this is what we have the capacity to do, but if you actually want us to do, or want us to do these different things, then this is the budget that we would need for you to actually staff it with. So right now, when you're asking for private use, there's no staff to staff the private use. But when they come, Ms. Banks is taking a list of everybody who wants to utilize the green space. She has a list of people who want to do rentals, but we actually have to have a plan in place because again, in November, we voted to not renew the management agreement. And then we voted in February to put 2 contractual positions in place to build out what the park would look like of rental, what the uses of space would look like for rental. So right now, we have the new initiatives and a programming manager that's working with community engagement and working with Homeland, working with police, to put together what this plan would look like, and they will actually have a full presentation for us at a board at our April 2nd board meeting. Well, they'll be presenting pricing, staffing, and all the facility stuff. So you don't have to request it, they're already working on it.
And the reason why I had it on the agenda, because the residents are calling in regards to the usage of these spaces. The Village of Maywood has operated or managed the operations of the 200 building, as well as Veterans Memorial Park. So this is not something that is like overly complicated where, we have to, take a lot of time to figure out, because prior to us turning these facilities over to the Park District to manage, the Village of Maywood was managing these two properties quite well, especially this park. And so the reason why I'm bringing it to the board attention, because, especially like the outdoor space, but it should be made available to the public, with the summer months fastly approaching.
Agreed.
So I heard what you just stated in regards to Ms. Banks and the two contractors coming up with a plan and having that plan ready for next month. So I just look forward to seeing that and reviewing that plan.
Okay. All right. With that said, we're going to move into omnibus agenda.
Mayor,
14.
Mayor, could I go to 13C quickly? I know we're going to be talking about this in new business, but I did just want to.
If it's your time to get the presentation for me.
Yeah. Okay. So, community, I just wanted to, I'm not going to take a whole lot of time, but I just wanted to kind of remind the community of kind of ARPA, because it's been a while, it's been like a long time coming in terms of how, once we finally got here to voting for, to actually obligate these resources for certain uses. And so, a lot of this discussion has been happening at the Finance, Accountability, Government Transparency Committee. There's been discussions also with staff and the mayor's office as well. So there's a bunch of things that kind of that we're going to ultimately see on the agenda. I just want to kind of present a little bit of a timeline. So going back to March of 2021, that is when ARPA was passed and signed into law. The first distribution that the village received was May of 2021. After that, some additional guidance came out because they were working on this because remember, it's COVID, it's a pandemic, so they're kind of working on this as they go. May 2022, the second disbursement comes out, and at that time, the village's stance on it was, one, at that time, probably between 2021 and 2022, we were doing a lot of research, surveys, and trying to figure out what we're going to do. The board sentiments were, and I believe the mayor mentioned that, hey, we don't need these resources to burn a hole in our pocket. Let's just wait and kind of see how things pan out with other federal resources and so forth. And so that's what we did. Where we are now in the timeline, so we're after that, we've gotten all of our resources, which is $3.1 million. Now we're at December 2024. So that is the deadline in which those resources that you receive have to be obligated, meaning there has to be contracts in place, invoices, you've agreed to the use of those resources. And then you have to have spent the money by December of 2026. So you have to obligate it by the end of this year, contractually obligated or some sort of ordinance, utilizing or earmarking that use, and then 2026 is when you would need to have spent those resources. And so this is just kind of going back to, this is actually a Village Street Press article regarding what we were doing at the time. So this was October of 2021, where, as it says, they were weighing in on ARPA spend. So we took a long survey, we got residents' input, business owners' input to arrive at what we thought we went back to the strategic plan to, get information about what was going on. Here's just another picture as well. As you can see, we were discussing POCO. We had to buy the software in order to move forward. So this was, I believe this was October of 2021. So it's been a while, and I thought it was just important to let the community know what's happened. So where is the village as of right now? So what have we done so far? And I wish Miss Satchel was here to kind of help me with this, but what we did during the fiscal year of 2023-2024 as through that budget process, we earmarked half of those resources for certain use. So as you can see, out of the $3.1 million, that's that big blue, half of it is unallocated, meaning that we did not assign that for a particular use yet. The Finance Committee made a recommendation based on, as I mentioned, those surveys that we received, community input, not-for-profit input, you name it, right? We took all that information and said that we were going to present in the budget to the board how we wanted to assign half of it, because we knew we were working up to this deadline in December. So let's do half, and then the direction was that the other half, we worked with staff, to get other recommendations, and that's where, I've seen things as it relates to public safety items like vehicles and alleys and so forth. So that's what we've done so far, and that was approved in March of 2023. And here are just some of the initiatives that we've seen. Some of these items you will, we'll be voting on now. But here are some of the things that we've seen through the committee that we've, discussed. Senior home improvement program, that was in the mayor's report. Business community support. There's a bunch of items. I shouldn't say a bunch. The elements of healthy Maywood have been under that, but also the Maywood Chamber of Commerce came up as well. Public safety, Ring doorbell rebate program, so we wanted to utilize our police department to help aid in getting those type of initiatives out to our residents. Park equipment and installation, at that time we were just beginning this transfer talk back then, but that was also with aid to tourism. We just saw the West Town Museum Operation Uplift that was ingrained in that conversation of what was initially approved. Signage for the community. Support for the unhoused, Housing Forward, the Way Back In, those are organizations that we thought through that budget that we could help support to aid the community. Infrastructure improvements, and investment in village-owned assets. So there's a bunch of buildings I shouldn't say a bunch of assets, there are a few that I've at least come up before I've heard of. The Widow's Home, the Ceasefire Building, and the Masonic Temple were areas in which we wanted to invest in. So what's next? Just to wrap up, we will be having budget discussions. I think that was in the attorney's report that we'll be passing that April 2nd. So I need to confirm this, but we will be having a finance committee meeting on March 20th. I'm going to try to get that recorded either through the Village of Maywood's Facebook or through mine, so you all can see what's happening there. A lot of further, discussions around tip inputs and et cetera, plus other topics that's happening at the committee level, issuance of bonds. That's been a discussion that has been percolating behind the scenes of our audits of how we're going to fund this Fifth Avenue redevelopment, or if we're going to move forward with it in general to tap into that grant. There's casino revenue that the village has began to receive that we're going to be looking to understand what's going to be the direction as far as the use of that. But that is, if you remember, the village gets resources for the revenue that's generated from the casino in Chicago. And then lastly, lead water lines. That's just a discussion that I actually want to get more information on. I know that's been brought up with TIF and other ways. Are these municipalities going to be responsible for ultimately updating these lead water lines, and what does that look like? So I just wanted to take a few minutes just to touch base on what we're talking about at the Finance Committee meeting. We'd love to get you engaged in the conversation, and just wanted to kind of walk through that. Thanks, Mayor, for letting me get that.
Thank you, Trustee. Marvin, you could just pull that up. So while Marvin is pulling this up on the screen, I thank the trustee for his presentation, but I just want to give a reminder that in regards to the American Rescue Plan Act, we have worked with multiple different organizations and agencies on a state level, on a federal level, on a county level. And with that being said, we definitely have worked with agencies within Cook County to get organizations like Housing Forward over $1 million for behavioral health funding. We have definitely given letters of support and recommendations to give over $300,000 to organizations such as the Way Back In, which is ARPA funding through Proviso Township. So I think, again, when I bring up the conversation of recommendations of organizations to partner with and work with,
is to say that there's a lot of ARPA money still out there right now. There's a lot of ARPA money that's still not obligated right now. So again, I just want to remind everybody, before we try to look at obligating our funds to direct spending, I think that we definitely need to take a step back and see how can we best serve the organizations that we're partners with through the partnerships that we have on a federal, state, county, and township level. There was, in December of 2023, an update in regards to the ARPA spending. So in December of 2023, the federal government released guidelines or increased or enhanced and extended what your scope could be within ARPA. So there's one ordinance in which if you have received less than $10 million, you can put it all into one bucket. And then there's the other piece that has added additional areas where you could spend. So I'm trying to get Marvin to pull this up, because after we received that December guidance of new ARPA spending, because I do sit on the National League of Cities Board of Directors, and we did federal advocacy for the relief of what ARPA was restricting us to spend money on, and we got that passed successfully. In January, we did actually have a board meeting where we did obligate the entire $3.1 million. And I just want to make sure, Marvin to be able to pull up so we can go over what the obligations were so that everyone's on the same page and we're level setting when we have conversations about providing direct charitable contributions versus partnership of what that looks like.
Mayor.
Trustee Brandon.
Yeah, so, I've heard a lot of conversation about ARPA funds, and, what my perspective is this. In regards to making sure that we support, those programs that are going to help, our residents, what I'm looking for is getting them that support as soon as possible. So when we're talking about the home improvement program, things like that, so we've all gone to these conferences and taken a lot of notes and did a lot of listening to leaders at different levels, whether it's Mayor Eric Adams out of New York, who encouraged us to make sure that when we are looking at these type of investments, we'll make sure that we're not only invested in our physical infrastructure as it relates to on the people side of things, or the street side of things, but also invested in our people infrastructure as well. And for me, it's about making sure we get these resources to the people, the businesses who have been impacted by the pandemic. And that's the conversation I'm looking for, or hearing first. How do we get these resources to those who are in need, to those businesses who are, the very essence of the funds was to help folks recover from the pandemic. And so, I reviewed the proposal and the things that you had put in, the proposal that you submitted. But the very first proposal that I'm looking for is getting these resources to the people of Maywood, and providing the businesses as well with some support and relief. And that is not the conversation that we're going to be having. I'm not looking to support anything other than making sure that these resources first get to the people of Maywood and to the businesses of the community that were impacted by it.
Okay, couldn't agree with you more, Trustee. So when we look at the obligation that was made in January of 2024, that was approved by the board, it is new squad cars. So we allocated funding for new squad cars. We allocated funding for a new mobile finger scanner. We allocated funding for a brake key phone extraction device, and we allocated lead control kits, which would all go to the police department. We allocated $50,000 for a security camera partnership registration program. If you look at the board packet, there's different examples of what that program could look like. So that's why I said for the ordinance and policy committee to put through, because we already allocated the money. We just need to approve the program so that staff can
execute. There was an area for public sector employees. So for employee pay, bonus, or benefit, we allocated $100,000 to it. There's also an area for administrative expenses. So we allocated $150,000 for Laserfiche. The Village of Maywood has some paper files that are 20 years old sitting in file cabinets that need to be scanned so that we can not have so many papers just sitting in place. So Laserfiche is a scanning system that will literally update and bring us into 2024 instead of 1990. We allocated more speed bumps, solar signs, and just regular signs overall throughout the village of $50,000. For message boarding, we allocated $42,000. For light towers, we allocated $51,000. For an interceptor, $46,000. For a bucket truck, we allocated $200,000. For our alleys, we allocated an additional $1 million to focus on our park and recreation initiatives and revitalization of our parks. We allocated $350,000. And then for the ceasefire building, we allocated $125,000, but on top of that $125,000, we allocated, we didn't allocate, we received state funding of ARPA of $250,000, and then we also are working with Build Up Cook, where they are looking into the pricing that we provided for the facade, windows, and roofing. So when it comes to the other organizations, to answer your question, proclivity trustee, there is funding put in there for home improvement of the $150,000, and then the initiatives and programming that focus on the social determinants of health. There's also allocated of $300,000. So I don't want you to think that there's not money set aside for it. What I will say is that no different than I let Ms. Smith know. Last month there was a whole 30-day period where, like Build Back Better, the Back to Business grants with the state that they've been releasing. Local chambers of commerce were able to apply for $5 million in regards to chamber funding that is already set to be released immediately so that they wouldn't have to wait. So that is funding that was already notified to the chamber to be able to apply for. I don't know where that sits, but there's also funding that if a business is in need of funding, they can go to the Chamber of Commerce in Melrose Park. So the Chamber of Commerce in Melrose Park on 25th has a partnership with the Department of Economic Opportunity, and the state actually has navigators within that facility because they have like a business development center. So within their business development area, the state has navigators that navigate businesses to get immediate assistance because there's a lot of Build Back Better grants that they can get immediate assistance on. So when businesses ask for funding in regards to that, we direct them to the Build Back Better over there at the 25th building where Jack and his team helped them out. But we also still have, remember, the business improvement program that we offer up to a $25,000 match on to help businesses get their sales. And then there's also been the work that we have rolling out with the different banks. We released the microloan program with Wintrust. So that is specifically for Maywood businesses that you can apply for microloans through Wintrust. And then we also have through Chase Bank, where we partnered with Cities Inclusive Entrepreneurship, where they can go through a series of different business classes that would help get them funding as well. So I don't want you to think that there's not conversation in regards to making sure that businesses and residents get the assistance. We definitely put in, when we talked about the home improvement, a senior program, a low-income program, and then just a regular overall primary homeowner program. So that's why I gave the examples. If you look under the mayor's report, it gives the examples of those different things. We just need to go get that through ordinance and policy so that we can actually get them activated.
And Mayor?
Trustee.
Yeah, and I've listened to your conversation as it relates to all of these different entities and all of these different outside sources of opportunity that the businesses can tap into. But again, this opportunity that we have with these ARPA funds provides the village of Maywood with a very unique opportunity to invest directly in a very unique and creative way in our business community. As we know, during the time frame where a lot of these resources were available, there were a lot of businesses in our community couldn't even qualify for a lot of these different programs. And I've heard the stories from a lot of these businesses who said they were inundated with paperwork. There were certain things that they, I guess, didn't have in place. And so what these ARPA funds allow the village of Maywood to do in a bold way is to directly support, whether it be our residents or our business community. I'm very well aware of the Business Improvement Program, very well aware of that, something that I brought to the table. But I am saying, how can we do it in an even larger way, in a bigger way that's going to make a bigger impact as it relates to our residents and our business community. I think that we can do that if we are operating with that with the will to do it, and charging our staff to just the whole idea of working with the chamber and the new energy that's within the chamber, and creating this synergy about being on the ground, seeing what is needed from the business community. There are a lot of businesses that were impacted by the pandemic, had to close their doors. I just think that there's a unique opportunity for us directly to help strengthen these businesses, their internal structures, or just make sure they have certain things in place by having the Village of Maywood Community Development Department work in conjunction and in partnership with the chamber, and again the new energy that is within the chamber as well. There are things we can do directly as a community where we can remove the red tape that exists for a lot of these businesses. A lot of them opened right before the pandemic, and are still just struggling to keep their doors open. So for me, again, I think this is a unique opportunity for us, and we have to seize this moment and seize the opportunity and charge and challenge our community development department to hit the grounds and come up with some really creative ways to help uplift the business community. I'm aware of all of those different entities that you mentioned, but I just believe that Maywood could do something really creative, and I think it's already spelled out of how that could look, and I'm looking to hear some ideas from the Community Development Department on what this could look like. How can we, really uplift these, these businesses beyond what we already have on the table, and help remove some of the red tape that exists with some of these other programs.
I agree. I look forward to actually a policy and a process in which that can happen. I'm sure community development is excited to do something like that. But again, that's why I gave the recommendations of things that can go to ordinance and policy, because it would be great to have policies on these things, because we are governed by policies. And our job as legislators is to provide that policy. So it would be great to do that. With that said, I'm going to move on to omnibus agenda items. So I need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion to approve omnibus agenda items A through M. I need a second.
Second.
Motion to approve A through M, second by Trustee Jones. Trustee Sanchez, if you could read.
Letter A, motion to approve the monthly financial report in the amount of $986,170.04. Letter B, motion to approve the warrant list number 200547 dated February 29, 2024 in the amount of $1,731,372.34. Letter C, motion to ratify the action of the Edelson Law Firm of voting in favor of the Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization plan for Endo International, U.S. Bankruptcy Court Case number 22-22549, and direction to submit on behalf of Liz Maywood the participation instructions for opting in to the participation agreement, national settlement agreement, proof of claim, and a participation agreement, national settlement agreement within the opioid class action litigation pharmaceutical manufacturer Endo International, as executed by the village president and the village clerk or their designees or the Edelson law firm. Letter D, motion to ratify the filing of emergency court actions relative to authorizing no trespass enforcement for the properties located at 1610 to 16112 South 7th Avenue and 1600 Madison Street. Letter E, motion to approve payment of invoices issued to the Maywood Police Department by Allied Services Group Incorporated for performance of deceased transportation services from 2020 through 2023 in the amount equal to $33,600. Invoice numbers 1018, 1019, 1020, 1021, 1022, 1023, and 1029. Letter F, motion to approve trustee Isaiah Brandon's attendance at the Growing Sustainable Communities Conference in Dubuque, Iowa, from April 23rd to the 24th, 2024. Letter G, motion to approve the filing and prosecution of an emergency demolition lawsuit relative to the abandoned unsafe building located at 1305 South 9th Avenue, Maywood, Illinois. Letter H, ordinance ratifying and approving a property sales contract with Artemio Montano and Anna L. Montano for the purchase by the Village of Maywood property located at 1101 South 1st Avenue, and for the appropriation expenditure of Madison Street, 5th Avenue TIF district funds to pay for the purchase of the property and other TIF eligible redevelopment costs related to the purchase. Letter I, ordinance amending subsection A, no parking at any time of Schedule 3, no parking zones of Chapter 76, parking schedules of Title 7 Traffic Code of the Maywood Village Code relative to a no parking zone on Washington Boulevard. Letter J, resolution authorizing and approving the execution of and the filings of an application by the Village of Maywood for a project to be funded under the Community Development Block Grant Program for the 2024 Community Development Block Grant Program year 2025 CDBG Roadway Improvement Project, 21st Avenue from Van Buren Street to Wilcox Street. Letter K, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a deceased transportation agreement with Allied Services Group Incorporated, independent contractor agreement between Allied Services, Inc. and the Village of Maywood for deceased body removal and transportation services. The term is March 6, 2024 through March 6, 2025 with a 1-year renewal option. Letter L, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a bid response and construction contract between the Village of Maywood and low bidder J&R Dooley Concrete, Inc. in the amount of $937,950 to complete the 2024 Green Infrastructure Alley Improvement Projects and authorizing the expenditure of the MWRD grant funds and general funds to pay for the work. Letter M, resolution authorizing the execution of an independent contractor agreement for professional services between Ecotron Systems, Inc. and the Village of Maywood relative to information technology services. The term is March 6, 2024 through April 30, 2025. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightford. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, so we have A. Under new business, it's an ordinance authorizing certain amendments to the fiscal year 2023-2024, May 1st of 2023 through April 30th, April 2024. Village of Maywood Budget Amendment Number 1, ARPA Fund Expenditures. This budget amendment approves the recategorizing of all fiscal year 2023-2024 budgeted ARPA Fund expenditures as replacing lost public service sector revenue, which will allow the $1.5 million budgeted ARPA funds to be spent without the limitations of the fiscal year 2023-2024 budgeted ARPA fund expenditure line items. This ordinance requires a supermajority vote of the board. So again, this is one of those changes that took effect in December of 2023. So I need
Mayor.
a motion.
Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Jones.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve 15.A
Trustee,
through.
I'm looking for a motion on ordinance A.
You're not looking for a motion?
I said I need a motion to approve this first.
Yeah,
So like,
I'd like to make a
well, wait a
motion.
minute. This piece has to get approved first. That's why the budget, that's why the agenda is broken down the way it is. Like if you see there's like a 15A and a 15B section. So we have to, well, wait a minute.
You didn't hear my motion yet.
But you're trying to approve multiple items. I'm saying we have to approve A first before we can go
Yeah,
to
I'm not
anything
15A.
else.
I'm not trying to do 15B.
Right. So my thing,
Do you want?
you're reading a lot of different line items. It's
I
this.
didn't read anything. I didn't finish what I was going to say. Do you mind if I finish and then maybe we can discuss it?
But there's a motion that's needed to do this before we can do anything that what you're asking for.
You don't know what I'm going to ask.
So let me say this. The reason that we have to approve replacing lost public service sector revenue first is because if that specific one thing is not approved, then we move from 15A altogether. And then we have to go into 15B. But in order to address the rest of the line items, we have to address the first line item first. Because we can't vote on the other line items, even as a joint motion, if we don't vote on this one first. It goes this one, then it goes to the rest. But it has to be the determination of how we
I understand exactly what you would you mind if I finish my motion?
Sure, go for it.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve 15A.1 through 15A1A, 15.1B, 15A1C, 15.1A1D, 15A1E, 15A1F, 15A1G, 15A1H, and 15A1I.
Okay, let's be clear. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said. We can, no, it's an inaccurate motion because it can't happen. I'm trying to explain for clarity. 15A is an ordinance that requires a supermajority board vote. If that one item gets approved,
Right.
then you can go to try to do what you have to, that you just tried to do.
Why
but
is that?
This part, because it allocates how we're going to spend the money.
Right.
So listen, trustee,
I'm following.
if this A fails,
Mm-hmm.
then we have to go to the 15B options. If you look on the agenda, the 15A options and the 15B options are the same things, they're just categorized differently.
Right.
Because right now, in the spending, what we can spend is the 15B.
Right.
Because of the new regulation from December of 2023,
Right.
we have the ability
Right.
to do it the way that you just tried to do it.
Right.
If we first approve to amend A. So if we don't amend A to get to the other line items, then we immediately go to B. So the first piece to even know how we're going to how we're going to spend the money or what bucket it gets spent out of would be to deal with A first.
Right.
We can't go to the other line items without dealing with this one item first, because that dictates what budget line item it comes out of. So we have to deal with A first before we can actually deal with that motion.
Well, let me respond. So there's a motion on the floor, and it's to go through 15A. So let me ask a clarifying question too.
I don't know how you approve that if we haven't allocated the funds.
So the reason why I did that was for a particular reason, and Jim, I'm about to actually direct my question towards you because I think you probably know what I'm looking to accomplish here. So, big picture. Here's what's happening. So the mayor presented his ARPA allocation that the board did approve, right? 4-0 to approve that. However, in order to amend the budget, you have to have a supermajority, right? And so we've already, as I kind of walked through the presentation, we've already allocated half of the ARPA resources for a particular use, right? And so how this is divvied up, 15A and 15B break out what options we choose. 15A, Mayor, as you just mentioned, is us assigning this usage for those allowable uses, it's saying, hey, we're going to reclass that and put it all in this one bucket that we use for less than $10 million. And then, once we've decided that, then we can decide whether or not, which items we want to approve and not approve. The reason why I did it group is because I'm saying that I am willing to support the amendment, the budget amendment, to reallocate those resources from those allowable uses to that one line item if we're going to approve the items that have made the agenda for ARPA. That's the reason I did it that way, because as I mentioned to Jim, if we approve this first, what happens is that now the board consideration is now the same for everything. When really you need to give a supermajority for some of the items that the mayor mentioned. So this happened after the fact, some of these items that you're mentioning. And so that's why if we didn't approve the idea to reclass, now you're going to need a supermajority for all the items that were not a part of the budget originally back in 2023. So the reason why I did that is I'm saying I'm willing to compromise because I didn't want to tie the community into our stuff, but let's just go ahead and talk about it. So half of the resources were allocated. There has been an agenda, if you will, to redo that and to make an amendment and say, okay, we only allocated half. Let's make an amendment to say we're going to utilize those resources. Don't forget what we've already assigned it to. We're going to redo it. Now, it just so happens some of that stuff was the same, like the senior home improvement program and the premium pay. There was some not infrastructure. So there are some other things that happen to be the same. So what I'm looking to do is for a compromise, and I'm asking the board to compromise. That's what I'm looking to do. So, Mayor, I would agree. You need a supermajority anyway. So I'm willing to do it if we're doing it this way. I don't support the budget amendment if we're not going to support the items that we've already obligated these resources for, in which you voted on, and that's a fact. The only person on this board that did not vote on that ARPA allocation that I walked through was Trustee Sanchez, because he was absent, and Trustee Ray Williams, because he was not on the board yet. Everyone else on this board actually had approved that allocation. So this is just me being a champion of some of the items that the community spearheaded, for instance, Operation Uplift and some of the work that they're doing, the chamber, the way back in. I'm championing those. I do understand that there's different opinions, but I don't want to muddy this into some of the stuff that you brought up, because this has already been approved.
Mayor?
Well, hold on 1 second, I'm sorry. So just to wrap this up, my motion was intentional because I'm saying, Mayor, I support the budget amendment, and I think it was written this way for a reason. That's why I wanted to ask not Attorney Jeruzik. I wanted to ask Jim, did you write it this way, or I guess only Attorney Jeruzik, because I'm under the impression that's ultimately what we're doing. If we're going to amend the budget, now everything only needs a 4-7 vote after that. I'm not comfortable moving that way unless we're going to say, all right, I support all of it. Well, I don't support the budget amendment because it didn't go through the right channels. And to be honest, it removed a lot of the things that the community said that they wanted, and I just don't support it because it's been deemed as like a charity donation, with nothing in ARPA is charity. There's allowable uses. You have to follow those allowable uses. People aren't coming because it's because you were impacted by COVID, and this is a recovery for it. You would have to get approved. If it's not in the budget, we're not going to entertain it. So that's why I just want to be clear. That's why I did it that way. 15A. There's items there. I'm asking, hey, let's just move forward with this. It made the agenda. There's the police cruisers. There's stuff that you wanted. There's stuff that we both mutually wanted. There's stuff that obviously you don't. I'm asking, let's just do it all in one swoop. You need a supermajority. I'm asking the board to entertain it. I think that's a fair compromise. Before we move on to Trustee Sanchez, I'm hoping that I want to make sure my understanding is correct, whether it be with Attorney Jeruzik or Jim, if my understanding is correct of how we can approve this at the same time, based on that budget amendment with 15A, understanding that if we do that, because that was the point of 15A, wanted to say, well, if you approve 15A, then you only need a 4-7 vote. if you do 14B, you need a supermajority. That's why it's separated. So that's why I did it that way. It was a strategy. I'm being strategic here to see where we are with this stuff. I want a compromise. I'm asking the board for a compromise, and I'd like to get your support.
So, trustee, let me say, before I just give it to, I'm trying to get clarity. Realistically, it says this motion requires a supermajority vote, right? So therefore, if this motion does not get the supermajority vote, you can't bunch them into two, or like you can't bunch them into one vote. You can sit there and say, if A goes through, then you can most certainly go for a try to attempt of 1A through I, right? But you have to identify, if we're going to vote on these, we actually have to get to the point of saying, is it going to be done this way, or is it going to have to go to 15B? It's one or the other. You have to vote the one way or the other, then we allocate. But for clarity, and then I'll send it over to Attorney Jerusik. You said that I didn't want to fund things. That's not true. What I will say is, yes, I am on federal advocacy for ARPA. So replacing lost public service sector revenue was something that, like, we were asking if we could not have to allocate all of this stuff, because the whole thing was there's so many cities and towns that don't have the staff in their finance department to have to go through federal mandated filing. Right? So that's why that got put in. That wasn't something that got put in by mistake. The other part, I will say, when you say Operation Uplift, you're trying to give them $150,000. But the reality is, we're already working with Operation Uplift on the African American Heritage Tour. We're already working with Operation Uplift in regards to street signage. We're already working with Operation Uplift in regards to Juneteenth. The plaques that they requested to be put into the sidewalks last year when we did the street designations weren't done, but they would like those done this year because we didn't have the funding. So again, when you say we're going to help them with the African American Heritage Tour, we're putting that package together in partnership with Mr. Stone, and that's Ms. Banks' thing, right? That's not our thing. She's going to bring that to the board.
Sure.
We're working to say, okay, there's funding to help Operation Uplift with the actual sidewalk signage that accompanies the street signage that we did last year. Okay. And then we also say, oh, yes, we also start helping with the Juneteenth event. That's still their event that we're working on as well. That is not presented as a budget, right? But that is a partnership and a collaboration. When you say you want to give them $150,000, then that's when I say, also talking to Mr. Stone, there is state funding for tourism dollars.
I don't want to do it. The board
right?
voted on it. I don't want to do the board.
So trustee, I would love if you could allow me. So this is what I will say also. The board did not obligate nor allocate. What happened was when we got the slide presentations at the finance presentation for the last year's budget, there was one page on the slide that said recommendations from the committee, right? There was no actual vote to obligate. There was a vote for the village budget for the year. So understanding that then put that money into that pocket, even though it was just a recommendation, when we did receive the full $3.1 million, because here's the other part. If that genuinely was your thought process, that we obligated those funds, why are we now a whole year later talking about it for the first time as a board vote? The reality is, what happened last year was we put the money in an interest-bearing account because the goal was to see what opportunities still existed on a federal, state, and county level for ARPA. So a year ago, we would not have known that when you say Housing Forward, you want to give them $20,000. Well, guess what? The Village of Maywood gave them support to get $1 million. We wouldn't have known that a year ago.
What do you mean by that?
So there was the behavioral transformation grant that came out through the county. We partnered together because we're all a part of Healthy Maywood, which is when I keep asking, like, can we just talk? So within the Healthy Maywood, one of the parts is access to healthcare. So the focus is mental health, behavioral health, and substance use. So within that, they wrote a grant where NAMI got some funding for Maywood specifically, and Housing Forward got Maywood funding. for Maywood area specifically within the census tract. And we gave support to that. We also worked with our speaker to get support for that. We also worked with our senator to get support for that. So realistically, we already helped them get $1 million. You're trying to help them get 20,000.
They don't need, are they all their needs met? Is that what you're saying? Like all their needs are met, like housing forward, for instance. Like so, there's no more need because I will
what
say
I'm
that
saying,
because the village of Maywood gets federal dollars, and what if the state felt that way? What if the state said, "Oh, you guys have already gotten federal dollars. There's no need to give you state dollars because you've already gotten federal." Or the county, "Oh, well, you've already gotten state and federal dollars. There's no, we already helped you, get your federal dollars.
I got you.
You don't need county dollars as well." That's not the need is way greater than I think you're presenting.
I'm not disagreeing with you, trustee, that the need is not greater, right? What I'm saying is, even last year, the reason why we did not put any ARPA dollars on the board packet is because, one, there's really no policy or nothing to stop, if we approve any of this, from 5 more organizations coming with a need at the very next board meeting. There is no policy for it whatsoever. We need, and this was said over a year or 2 years ago. Yeah. There needs, exactly, right? So I'm not saying that this is not a conversation that was had.
No,
there needs to be a giving
policy.
policy.
There is a policy. We have a budget.
No, that's not what I'm saying. So the other part,
people are going to come asking, "No, are you in the budget?"
But the other
and
part,
if they are, then we would support. If they're not in the budget,
what I'm saying,
there is a policy. That's why you have a budget.
So trustee, what I'm saying is, even with the way back in, when they got the $300,000 from Maywood Township Mental Health Commission, you're trying to give the money. When I spoke to the executive director of way back in, she said, "I don't really know what I'm going to do with $15,000, but if you're going to give it to me, give it to me." Right? So I really genuinely say, trustee, we have healthy Maywood conversations of the 12 elements of a healthy community with different partners every single month. There's 12 different components of it. We do quarterly meetings where we do a luncheon every single quarter. These are already all of our partners that we're working with. Even with Way Back In and Housing Forward right now, there's 2 different grants that we're working on with them. So it's like, I hear what you're saying, but again, because there are so many different pockets of funding available, and we're partnering to get those different pockets of funding, we don't need to do what you're trying to do, which is why I invite you to say, let's talk about it. But with that said, I don't want to argue about it, because I don't want it to make it seem like, oh, we just don't want to give. 1, there's no policy for it. 2, the budget was voted on in January of 2024 after December 2023 changes came into play, and that is the budget. So not this. I understand that they're required. So
that's not true.
I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Jones.
That's true. That's not true. The budget was not amended. Can you address that too?
The budget was not amended. The allocation of the obligation of ARPA funds was actually done officially in January.
I agree, but it doesn't have to be.
Then you agree?
No, I do agree with that. I was just split. Oh, go ahead, Attorney. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the budget wasn't amended. The allocation was approved. It's up to the board to either amend its budget that you're currently in, the 2023-2024 budget, to change any expenditures if you want to do something different than what's stated in your budget, or wait another month or so and approve a new budget, and then make the allocations as you see fit. This agenda was put together, as we typically do. You have a budget amendment. We didn't couple it to any other thing in the agenda, right? This is an important issue that there is not unanimity here. It requires a 5 out of 7 member vote. So we put that first.
Yes.
If that gets approved with a 5+ positive vote of the Board of Trustees, then you can move to the items below. If you want to couple, as you've done with your motion, approving the budget amendment, but making it subject to the approvals of 1A through 1I, you can do that too. What that will do is keep that supermajority threshold in place. So, whether you approve the budget amendment and get that done on a 5-0 vote, or excuse me, 5+ vote, it could be 5-2, it could be 7-0, it could be 6-1. Then you'd have the ability to approve 1A through 1I, some or all of them, and it would only require a majority vote. So the way it was listed was, when we deal with budget amendments, especially in other communities, you really just deal with the budget amendment, and then if you're going to do things within that new budget amendment, they're typically listed later in the agenda. It's just the way it is. So there was no ulterior motive here. It's just, you can vote the budget amendment, you need your supermajority vote. If you want to couple that budget amendment with the approval of those A1 through A items, that's a legitimate motion as long as it's clear. And again, that would require that supermajority vote. If the budget amendment can't get done, then you have the ability to go to B. And all the things that are listed in B all require just a simple majority vote for. Those are all items that are in your budget right now. And so you'd be able to vote those items out. And I would point out, if you don't get A passed, for instance, B1. B1 is motion to approve, and it says to be determined the number of Ford Interceptors. Those Ford vehicles were $45,000. You only have $300,000 to spend in your current budget for that line item. So you'd have to figure out how many cars and trucks are you going to approve, how much of the police equipment under that, under that B1 are you able to squeeze in and approve $300,000 of expenditures. So if we get to B, we have to have some more discussion, before you get your motion put together. But, it's A is supermajority vote on A. If you choose to couple A with A1 through AI, again, it's a supermajority vote.
Okay, so with that said, to get to the first part that says this ordinance requires a supermajority vote, ordinance authorizing certain amendments to fiscal year 2023 through April 2024, Village of Maywood budget, amendment number 1, ARPA fund expenditures. This budget amendment approves the recategorizing of all fiscal year 23-24 budgeted ARPA fund expenditures as replacing lost cost public service sector revenue, which will allow the $1.5 million budgeted ARPA funds to be spent without limitations of the fiscal year 23-24 ARPA fund expenditure line items. This ordinance requires a supermajority vote. For that, I need a motion.
Mayor? We have to deal with the motion that's already pending.
There's a motion and table, with a motion and second already
There's
on
a
the
motion
floor.
and second, so we do have to deal with that one first.
So we're approving to expend money, but we don't know if we're actually going to have it to expend.
I understood Trustee Jones's motion to approve A, subject to the approval of 1A.
So then that's the motion. So I am willing to approve A, subject to approval of 1A through I. That's the motion.
That's what I understood his motion.
Correct.
And it did get a second.
Correct. So I'm willing to, just to clear, I'm willing to support the budget amendment if the board is willing to support the items that are laid or, underneath the budget amendment. If we're not going to do it that way, if we're not going to do a bundle and we have to do it one by one, then I can say I'm not going to support the budget amendment. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I would say, Trustee, that before we just go ahead and call the roll, no, I don't approve this because, again, all of this goes against to the actual work and the partnership of all more than 100 partners of Elements of a Healthy Maywood that have been working together to do partnerships, to get grants. It's not like all of the grants are coming to the Village of Maywood. All of these different organizations are getting grants with support from Maywood. So I don't agree with giving money when we're already working with each one of these partners or already have given information to each one of these partners on how to get more money. With that said, I guess please call the roll.
Trustee Williams? Trustee Sanchez?
No.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot?
No.
Trustee Peppers?
Aye.
Trustee Brandon?
Aye.
Mayor Booker?
No.
Motion
Fails. All right, so item B then says, if the above budget amendment ordinance is not approved, then the village board may take action on the following agenda items consistent with ARPA-related expenditures within the village-approved fiscal year 2023-2024 annual budget, ARPA budget line items. The village board may authorize the expenditure of ARPA funds up to the maximum dollar listed in ARPA fiscal year budget line items for approval.
Mayor.
Trustee Sanchez.
So, before I make my decision, are we jumbling everything up, or are we doing them individually? You can slice it however you like, trustee. Okay.
But you only have $300,000
But we're only looking at,
between A, B, C.
so if you're looking at, what are we at, if we're looking at 15B1, then that's what we're talking about, the different motions of the interceptors, the fingerprinting, the forensic software. So then realistically, we have $300,000 to spend within that budget line item. So within that budget line item, if every truck, So, Chief, we're just asking a question while we're deciding how to allocate the 300,000.
Yes,
right? So in allocating the 300,000, can you wait until May for the bleed control kits, the gray shift, and the fingerprinter, and we just focus on the purchase of the vehicles?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then we're gonna remove item B, item C, and item D.
We don't have to, you just don't take action.
Right, we're just gonna take action on it, okay. So, there is motion to approve. Okay, so if we do, one of the vehicles is 45,831. One of the vehicles is 51,285.
That's 95.
One is 15,366. One is 13,420. Gee, that's only 4. Am I missing one? So you got.
Chief wanted 5 vehicles, but I think if you crunch the numbers, I think the most you can do is like 2 vehicles and a truck.
Well, where's the 5th one? So we have one is a cost at 13,000. One is a cost at 15,000. One is a cost at 51,000. One is a cost of 45,000. That's only 4.
The cars are 45,000 and change. The truck is 51 and change.
It's $126,000.
Buy 2 cars, 1 truck.
So,
Cars and a truck plus the lighting, because,
That all
yeah, the 15,000 and the 1,300 vehicles, those are for Mars bars and
Correct.
emergency lights, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And the outfitter of the parts.
So really we're just doing, so motion A is a total of $126,000.
It should be, it could be more than that if you
We're-
get 2
It
or
would
3
be, you
cars.
have 200.
Okay, motion to, so then we're adding, okay, so how many Pumani Ford cars are there in total?
It's 6 in total, sir.
So then we're, okay.
So it's 5 interceptors and 1 pickup truck.
So if we do 5
6 vehicles.
times, I get you. So if we do the 5 times
It's 240,000.
45, we had 229. We're at 229, 155. Then if we do the 51,285, we're at 280.
So you gotta
And
back
then-
a car out in order to afford the lights.
So so if we do 15,366, all right. So then, in order to spend this, I would need a motion to approve the purchase of 2024 interceptors of 5 from Pumani Ford at a cost of $45,831 per vehicle. 2024 Ford 150 at a cost of $51,285, and then IT equipment for each vehicle from CDS Office Technologies at a cost of
Those
I
numbers,
get it.
can I clarify the numbers real quick?
So it is 15,000 per vehicle on top of the 45,000.
So each vehicle is 74,000 roughly.
Correct.
And the truck is roughly 80,000, give or take a few hundred. Assuming you have not removed E and F from the agenda, which if passage is 35,000, which would leave you a net of 265 that could be spent.
If I'm doing 15,000 for the technology, on the additional 13,000 for the public safety direct.
Right.
But that's per vehicle, man.
So it's $74,617 per vehicle.
Right, and 80,000 and whatever dollars for the truck. You can.
So technically, we can get 4 vehicles for $298,464. So I need a motion to approve the purchase of the 2024 Ford Interceptors of an amount of 4 at from Pomani Ford at a cost of $45,881. And then I need approval for the IT equipment for each vehicle from CDS Office Technologies at a cost of $15,366 per vehicle, and a vehicle outfitting for each vehicle from the Public Safety Direct at the cost of $13,420 at a total of $299,000. So once again, my question is, am I making a motion just for letter A, or am I dissecting everything? You're making a motion right now, You're making a motion right now because we have to dissect 1 first before we get to 2.
I make a motion to approve letter A.
Motion to approve letter A. I need a second.
A letter A of what, 15? I mean, where were we at? 15? I'm actually, which letter are we?
B1A, where approval for the expenditures not to exceed the amount of $300,000, ARPA Rescue Plan Act funding, budget line item 2239-1000, public health for the purchase. So we're purchasing the 4 interceptors, also getting them the IT equipment that they need and the vehicle outfitting that they need. And that total is $299,000. So I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Motion and second by trustee Sanchez, second by trustee Lightford. Please call the
I
roll.
have a question.
Trustee Jones.
Attorney, I'm not attorney. Village Manager Jim Brisky, I have a question in terms of, so this needs a simple majority, although this was not in the budget. How does that work?
Well, we obligated the funding in January once we got to December 2023. What was in the budget is the budget line item that says public health. The purchase of the vehicles falls under public health, which we did actually vote on in January.
These were purchases, these were things that are listed in the 2023-2024 budget under infrastructure improvements and expenditures for the police and fire departments. So these vehicles fall within that budget line.
Which is public health. So
For public health.
So the 2023-2024 budget, ARPA budget had 300,000 in that particular category.
Yeah, and this wasn't in it though.
Of which vehicles, pardon me, I don't know what was specifically in that original budget, but vehicles, police vehicles are eligible expense for public health. So, and I need to just make sure that everybody is clear. So if you did 4 of the vehicles, the way the math works out, it comes to just slightly less than the 300,000 that is allocated for public health.
Yes.
So that would mean nothing else under that category would be, what does that mean?
Correct. Until May.
So B, C, B, C, and D are been removed already. E and F have not been removed.
Well, actually.
Okay. So can you please call the roll?
I'm sorry. And what has been okay, so just to clarify, B1A is what we're voting on. B1B, B1C, and B1D is being removed. But then, just to also clarify, because it seems like those for B1E and B1F, are those in that same public health line item?
Yes.
Those are in your 23-24 budget.
So in other words, that budget line item is going to max out at that point. Like, so would we even have the ability to make a motion if that budget line item is maxed out?
No.
Right. So
that was the whole goal of getting it all put into the one bucket.
I tried to do that.
Right.
I tried to put it all into one bucket. That was the point. And then, because now what we're doing is, it's like I'm juggling between, okay, well now since it's in this item, and this wasn't, since I'm on the finance committee, I know this wasn't considered when we originally did the budget. That's why we're all kind of discombobulated. And that's why the order of this matters. And Jim, I was mentioning this to you, of why I didn't necessarily support this order, because you're putting, essentially, this is a budget amendment.
This is not a budget amendment. A line item is under public health.
I'm talking to Jim. So, Jim, and part of this is like, I don't think staff, and again, I wish Lonnie was here because she was following it. I don't think you all have been really following the ARPA discussion up until now. And now the way it's kind of rolling in, it's rolling in where essentially like the newer items are being positioned in a way in which it's like, oh, well, we would vote on it, but now that money is being allocated for that. And I just want to let you know that I threw that out there, and I don't think it was responded to well, or the way I would have wanted it, because now we're in this position, well, I don't want to choose if or, but I think, and that's why I was being strategic, I knew this was going to happen. So now I'm in a position where, from a budget perspective, I'm choosing between supporting the unhoused with ARPA and the way back in with ARPA over the police. Even though I know the mayor was saying, well, we support them this other way and they're a part of this and that. They're saying they're being nice to the mayor because he called them and kind of the mayor's he's aggressive, and I think in a lot of cases they were a little intimidated. They don't want to champion this, but they were a part of this conversation. And so I'm only saying this, I'm going to support it. I'm probably going to bring this back. I'm going to table these things, but I just want to say that I was trying to do this bundling, so I didn't have to go this route. And I was trying to call that out when we were having our discussion, and I'm actually a little disappointed that we got here because I was calling that out because this is a strategy thing, and I was calling that out, and I don't know, I didn't appreciate the fact that these items that had already been incorporated into the budget are now positioned where now I have to vote on things, and then if I do support it, which why wouldn't I? Now the budget line item is whatever, which is why I tried to support the initially, but I guess we'll see some of these other items whether they support it or not. But
I have to, when you say that, I know you're not intending it to be, but it really goes to my integrity, maybe even Mike's too, you may feel the same way. There was anybody's thought process to put these in any particular order. The reason it was numbered to be determined was just because we couldn't determine what that number would be. That's a number. I would never have guessed that this would have happened, that this was going to be. We just put the items down there that required the vote and left it in there as a number to be determined because it could go a number of different ways. And I don't like it. I don't want to be in that position. And can the numbers work at 4 and get right to 300,000? It can, but it leaves all of the other ones off the table for right now. But it certainly wasn't any intent upon.
But you knew that was going to happen.
I did not know it was going to happen.
Right, and that's why I was explaining that before I went in, and I was having these conversations.
I didn't catch that about how the this is the most complicated agenda I've ever worked on. Mike probably has worked on some equally as complicated. This is this kind of stuff that attorneys and village managers don't want to get involved in because this is not the way it should be, in my opinion. And I don't, it can be done, and you guys can, by majority, can vote it all through, but I don't like how all of this goes through, to be honest. I just don't like it all. It shouldn't be this hard.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to.
No, I know you didn't. And I said, I know you're not intending it to be.
But I saw it from a mile away.
And you guys look at it from a different view
right.
than I would. We're just trying to get the agenda together, and we worked until later on Friday to make sure we had it done in a way, and I felt bad for Mike actually, because he was the one who tried to figure out how all of this was going to be laid out, but it's you know,
My comments are, you can look at it through whatever lens you want to look at it. I tried to give everybody an option. We're not the policymaker. There's money to be spent. How you spend it, that's a consensus built in for you guys. And, you know, where I'm trying to achieve, manager and I were trying to achieve the objectives of, you know, directors. Police chief needs squad cars, he needs things. Your budget, you know, Trustee Jones from last year, public health, the first thing it says, capital investment, fire and police station, and Masonic Temple. So, you know, this $300,000 can be expended for public health, and one of the things that you have in last year's budget was capital expenditures, these cars, these lights, and, you know, these fingerprinting equipment, and et cetera. They're all legit, you know, or you can just wait another month, right?
No, you're
and
right.
roll this stuff into your next budget. We don't want to be dragged into, you know, this kind of thing. We're just trying to move the ball forward for you, for you know, the requests of you, the directors, you know, where we can. And if not, it just gets kicked over to the next, you know, board, the next budget. And when you get to the next budget, it's you know, the budget's going to be determined not by a supermajority vote, by a 4-person vote. And so, you know, hopefully there'll be less. If you guys think there's jockeying, no, we're just trying to get something presented to you so you can work out the, you know, the policy decisions and the monetary expenditures.
So Mayor, so we have a motion, and the motion is to purchase the 4 vehicles that total $299,000. There was a motion by Trustee Sanchez. There was a second by Trustee Lightford. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams? Aye. Trustee Sanchez?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Lightford? Trustee Peppers?
Aye.
Trustee Brandon?
Aye.
Mayor Booker?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Mayor, Trustee Sanchez. Everyone's putting in their 2 cents. I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I co-chair the Finance Committee with Trustee Jones. It's our responsibility to be fiscally responsible. Easy peasy, cut and dry. I think it's important for us to help these organizations in this community that in return help our residents. It's important to have our culture established in this community. It's important to maintain these lights on in these organizations. What I did not agree on was the number that we were allocating to each individual organization. How can we give $150,000 to one and only $15,000 to another? There's a lot of trigger words that were being used. Remove the red tape, the right channels. How do we give these resources immediately? We're not looking at the bullet points. We have December 24th to figure this out. We do not have a policy for these charitable organizations to come in and say, hey, we would like some of that governmental funding. Let's be equal about it. Let's have that equality. We want to have this conversation. This is my 2 cents. Why is it okay for one to have more than the other? Where is the process? Where is the equality? There is none. For me personally, I'm all for giving money to these organizations, but doing it properly. We need a policy on how much to give who. What if other organizations didn't know about this funding and didn't request it? I'm sure they know now. Is it going to be fair to say no to them? It's that easy. There's a disagreement on that part alone. That's it. If we're going to be transparent, then let's make a process to give these organizations what is right and fair, and have other organizations also request, if they're able to. With that being said, I want to table E, I want to table F, because we need to come back and sit down and figure out a proper ordinance, a proper policy to give every one of these organizations that need funding equally or fairly. With that being said,
The table till when?
So you're tabling a motion to direct further.
okay, so let me make it a little clearer. I would like to table it so that we can establish an ordinance or a policy. Can we forward this to that committee? To have that committee do its due diligence and have a protocol of what to request, how to request, and what to fill out. As soon as that committee can give me something in writing, I will not agree to give one organization less than another.
So then you're actually saying, since we're, I have a question. So trustee, you're going, I think if I'm understanding you, you're saying E&F, but we're past 15A, we're on 15B. So really you're saying 2A and B.
No, why are you speaking for him? Why are you speaking for him? He
Because
did
I
not
can
say
see
that.
what-
You've been constantly coaching Trustee Sanchez on what you mean and what you don't
Trustee,
mean.
I can see what is on 15A.
And he can too. Why? What do you mean? Oh, did you mean? No, that's not what. No, let him speak for himself.
Okay.
Well, I can tell you that you and I disagreed at our committee.
We
We disagreed, and we didn't need to put this on the agenda, but you still continue to do it.
No,
we
it went on the
disagreed.
agenda. It went on the agenda. It doesn't matter whether we agree or not. It goes on the agenda regardless.
Regardless, correct. And I still
So what are you talking
disagree.
about?
I still disagree with that.
Okay, so there's
So it's a motion to table.
there's questions on the floor.
Well, okay, if it's a motion to table, there's no questions. I just need clarity of what the motion of the table is.
So we're once again tabling the payments to approve the funding for these organizations, correct? I'm asking that question.
So
What
then
are
that's
you asking? You're supposed to be asking yourself. You're the expert.
What's
So
the letter?
it's 2A and B.
What's the letters?
Because we went over to 15B, we're not under 15A.
Point of
So now we're
clarity,
under
please.
2A
I'm
and
asking for a
B.
point of clarity
So-
on what did the trustee just call out? What numbers letters is he looking to table?
Okay. I'll table 2A and 2B.
Okay, so then that's a motion to table. Motion to approve the expenditure of the amount. Okay, motion to approve payment of $30,000 to Maywood Chamber of Commerce for following the Small Business Economic Assistance Program. Motion to table approval payment of $150,000 to Operation Uplift for the West Town Museum Operation and Capital Improvement Initiative until it goes through ordinance and policy?
Yes.
Okay. And
What about 1E and F, since those are still on the agenda?
Right, and it's all over the map with this
so
whole.
then,
It's all the ones that came from the finance
So then
committee that
it's-
they like.
It's
so
all
then,
over the map.
trustees, if motions also
All over the map.
table, well, it's not a need to table because there's no longer money in the budget.
There isn't money in the budget.
They still need
but
to
the board should
acknowledge it.
have some-
Okay.
The minutes should have some.
So, motion to table,
If we need a motion to table letter E and letter F, even though we don't have any funding in it anymore.
Because it's on the agenda.
So I motion to table that as well.
okay, so motion to table approval of the $20,000 to Housing Forward for mental health and substance abuse services. Motion to table the funding of $15,000 to Way Back In and community outreach and family programming. Motion to table payment of $30,000 to the Chamber of Commerce for Small Business Economic Assistance Program. Motion to table $150,000 to Operation Uplift for West Town Museum Operation and Capital Improvement Program until it goes through.
We need an ordinance. We need an ordinance, a proper ordinance.
Well, actually, we have an ordinance, Mayor. Mayor.
So that's a table. I need a second.
No, you don't get.
Second by Trustee Lightford. It's a table.
I get it, but.
So please call the roll.
Well, we can ask questions, right?
You can't ask a question.
Not on the table, there's no debate.
There's no
We
debate.
always talk about that, you know that.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams,
Trustee Williams?
Trustee Sanchez,
Aye.
Trustee Jones,
No.
Trustee Lightford, Trustee Peppers,
No.
Trustee Brandon,
No.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right.
Well,
So,
can I make a comment really quickly?
Go ahead, trustee.
So I'm on the ordinance and policy committee. So Trustee Williams, if you could hear this, I would, if you could get this on your committee, but on our next agenda, or on your next agenda, I wanted to comment on something about us needing a policy. And I think this proves the mayor, he said he's on the ARPA, NLC group, and Trustee Sanchez is on my committee about how this works. So ARPA in and of itself creates criteria that you have to follow. And so the policy is embedded in the resources in which you have to apply for. When you talk about a process, and it just, to me, it shows that people weren't really taking these processes seriously. But the POCO process was a process, like you were obligated to do these things to then even get to the point where you can make a vote. So we did the POCO with Trustee Sanchez, I'm sure you remember, that was a part of the process where you had to vote for that software. And then hundreds of residents and business owners voted on those results. And that's where these names came out of. And then at that point, what we did was that we discussed those things at the Finance Committee meeting. We had this discussion and, we vetted, people came with letters. But the policy is, just for you all to know, the policy is the trustee's discretion. The tablet is really, if I'm being transparent, that's really, it isn't a fairness thing, because it wouldn't have been approved. Again, I know Trustee Sanchez wasn't there, so maybe he would have been the only trustee to vote it down, but the mayor approved it, Trustee Lightford approved it, I did, Trustee Brandon, and so forth. So the tabling mechanism, it could work. I will tell these organizations, continue to reach out to your trustees, but Trustee Sanchez, he does not support it because he didn't agree with the amounts.
That's not true.
Well, he just said that. He said,
That's not what he said at all.
no, he definitely said, I didn't agree with how one organization got this amount and one organization got amount. He literally said, I didn't agree because of the amounts. And there's no policy. I just want to encourage the trustee that the policy is actually within ARPA, those allowable resources. And then what happens is that you use your discretion. Your discretion. You don't have to ask the mayor how this goes. You don't have to ask, other board colleagues. Like, you're supposed to make a determination, and you're supposed to know the process. And so I think we knew the process. I just think it was one of those things where, unfortunately, for the ones that we championed that came through the budget, it is a policy decision. So it's tabled. So I would say, hold us accountable so we can bring it back up. Maybe we can adjust the amounts if that really is it. And we can hopefully get some sort of recommendation from Trustee Williams in terms of what that policy looks like. But I do want to reiterate, this is not a charitable donation. If you're not in the budget, just to be clear, because the mayor was saying, if we would approve this, you're going to have 20, 30, 40 organizations coming up saying we need money. That's how budgets work. So how a budget works is that you agree to it, and then after that, you adhere to it. So the answer to that would have been, hey, I'm sorry, you're not in the budget, but, here's how you can apply, or here's how. But this isn't an application for ARPA. These are things that the committee and the community already established through that survey, what direction we want to go. This wasn't me. So for the people that participated in the POCO surveys and so forth, and when you gave that information, and we presented it, and so I'm sure some of that stuff, like the senior home improvement program, some of those things, that stuff being tabled. We're not going to move forward with it because we're just not going to move forward with it. And so I'm disheartened. We'll see if it actually comes back. We'll see if it moves forward, but I doubt it. And I would say, maybe reach out to some of these trustees and see what amount you feel comfortable with. But it's sad that after seeing that video and the improvements that even Operation Uplift could have utilized, they were getting state funding, but as they mentioned, that was for the development of that vacant lot. The money was going to be used for the capital improvements and operational improvements within their current space. It's unfortunate that the board decided not to support that or to table it, but then they jumped right on to these police vehicles and stuff, which is fine, but I just find it ironic that that's how that works. That wasn't, even though it was a line item, that was not in the budget. The last thing I'll say in regards to this, you know, we talk about risk and audits and things that happen. When you're doing this type of weird stuff with these type of amendments and stuff, to me that's risky. When you're a month before the fiscal year ends and you're trying to amend budgets, that's risky. That to me, that it happens. Don't get me wrong, it happens. I'm just saying it's something to consider. Is when things like that happen, it's just a red flag. Whether it means you have risk or not, that doesn't necessarily mean that. But I'm saying it is a red flag. No amendments happen, especially when you don't adhere on things that we could have moved forward on. I just find it to be an issue. So that's my comment.
Mayor?
Trustee Brandon.
Yeah, and I just want to just state for the record that, just to my board colleagues, that these organizations most certainly came before the village. Mayor, I don't know if you were privy to this, but I know they came before the finance committee and actually requested the support. So it kind of puzzles me a little bit when you say, well, they don't need these funds because they receive funds from all of these different agencies. But I know for a fact that they came before the committee requesting these funds to create these programs specifically for Maywood residents. And so I do too find it unfortunate that we're not able to provide these organizations with the support that they did request. And these meetings, if we're in a meeting and I try to attend all of the finance committee meetings. I think I only missed about 1 or 2. But those are great times to kind of like bring up, if you're looking for additional understanding or looking for some additional amendments. It's important for us to speak up as leaders and to bring those issues of having the issues to the table in a clear manner so they can be addressed and then work through the appropriate channels. This is the first time I'm hearing about sending things to the established policy through the policy committee and establishing all of these additional steps. But there was a lot of conversation that was held regarding these resources, that a lot of this stuff could have been addressed if we're all plugged in and if we're all 100% engaged in a healthy way in the conversation. A lot of these things could have been ironed out well in advance. So we find ourselves here today bringing up all of these different situations. So to me, it kind of concerns me that we waited to this point to kind of bring up all of these different additional steps. And again, it's those organizations who did come. It's kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is at this point.
Thank you, Trustee. One thing I will say, so that nobody is confused. We, back in January, had a Healthy Maywood West Coast Summit where we discussed partnerships, initiatives, collaborations, and grants. So it's not that you're saying the mayor is a push-up, whatever you call me. Intimidating. Way back in was at the event where we discussed partnership and collaboration activities. Housing Forward was at the event where we've discussed actual partnership and collaboration practices. So when these things came through as an email from you, not even a week later, I called them and I said, well, we just discussed all this stuff. Oh yeah, but one of your trustees just sent me something, so I just copied and pasted something and sent it back to them. That is what was said. Because the reality is, you already knew we had a board meeting. And although you didn't vote for it, you knew that we allocated the funds. You knew that there was a December update within ARPA. You knew that there was an obligation of funds voted on in January. And you knew that there were various different partnerships because I sent you in detail an email explaining to you the different partnerships. And even in that email, I asked if you would like to speak, meet, or anything, please let me know. So to say that it's a shame that we got to here when back in January we had these conversations, then you go to Trustee Sanchez where he's already acknowledged
He's not against supporting organizations. He's against the fact that we're supporting these organizations with no policy for it. Now, I get ARPA provides funding, but from the Village of Maywood standpoint, there is absolutely nothing that stops. If we were to do it like this, the way that you're trying to do it, there is nothing to stop 20 applications to come through that can rationalize one way or another why they need ARPA funding. So what I'm saying is, we have over 100 partners that we work with. We meet with them on a monthly in various committees. We meet with them quarterly as a group. Everybody is being helped through various different grants and partnering together through various different grants that a lot of them are ARPA funds. So when I say to avoid this type of stuff on a board packet, I welcome a conversation. I welcome to provide more information and when I have it. But for these, I did provide the information and it still was ignored and you still opted to put it on the board packet. So I don't want to make it seem like nobody's for organizations versus you all decide to do something to make it seem as though we weren't when we've been asking for the policy.
Who's been asking for it?
Oh, I asked for that policy over 2 years ago. If you think,
Was your request to
No.
Ray Williams?
no, but what I'm saying is if you think about it a few years ago, I said before we started donating, because we were donating at the time, we were giving money to multiple different churches for Thanksgiving.
That's two
We were
different
giving to,
things.
it's charitable, it's contribution giving.
Are you talking about two different ARPA?
Okay, I got you.
Different.
All right, so we'll move on. We are still dealing with 3A, C, and D, where it's a motion to approve the purchase of, I'm gonna just, because it's all within the 250,000. Can we get a motion to approve the purchase of one 2024 Ford Interceptor from Pumani Ford, a cost of $45,831 for the use of Public Works Department using outfit costs not to exceed $3,500 for a not to exceed cost of $49,331. And then there was the attached document from the chief, police department, PD, for vehicle costs, outfitting costs estimated. Motion to approve, C, motion to approve the purchase of one police department 2020 Ford Interceptor from Asia Motors at a cost of $33,995. Outfit cost at $3,800 from ABC Automotive Electronics and miscellaneous equipment of $4,000. Total cost not to exceed $41,795. Funding source comes from the Maywood Police Department State Shared Account 1505. Memo from February 20th from the Police Department and supporting documentation. And then a motion to approve vendor agreements for Jagger Works and Ray O'Haron's for the purchase and modification of equipment and outfitting kits of the Police Department issued handguns with red dot sights at total cost of $10,354.91. Jagger costs agreement in the amount of $1,640, and Ryan O'Haron vendors agreement in the amount of $8,714.91. Funding source, Maywood Department sees funds account. See memo, date February 20th, from Police Chief supporting document. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Trustee Williams.
Motion to approve 15B, 3A, 15C, and 15D.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Williams, second by Trustee Sanchez.
If you're gonna do this as a mini consent agenda, you gotta have a unanimous vote, because you're taking one motion to approve multiple items, otherwise you gotta deal with them individually.
Okay. Can you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Lightford? Trustee Peppers?
Aye.
Trustee Brandon?
Aye.
Mayor Booker?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, so again, we've already obligated the ARPA funds for housing programs and the doorbell. We just need to put together the programs. So I would just say we just need motion to send this to ordinance and policy, because we've already obligated the funds. We just need to put the details together of the programs.
Motion.
Motion by trustee Sanchez. I need a second by trustee Williams. If there are no questions, please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. All right, we're going into 16 old business. So there is a motion to approve the purchase of 6 new professional grade basketball backboards, 42 by 72 inches, 6 new basketball rims and signage for Glenn Doc Rivers Family Basketball Court at Connor Heights Memorial Park at a cost not exceeding $22,600, using available funds from 2020 donations from the Jose Antonio Riflos Lucas Foundation, $15,000, and from Glen Rivers, $7,600. See attached documented donations.
Motion to approve.
Mayor.
Trustee Williams.
So, this is something that's near and dear to me. We've been waiting for a long time to get these basketball rims up. There was money allocated for it. There was donations taken for it. And last I checked, just a couple weeks ago, I was under the impression that there was a donor that was donating $1 million to the park to redo the entire park.
Yes, that is true. So
I would like to know where we stand with that right now. And if there is a donor that's willing to do the entire park, I'm hoping that would include these new basketball rims and what this 22 was allocated for. I really, really want to get this done, but I'm asking that we can table this until I can get clarity on who's doing the park, the outline of the park, and how long it's going to take us to get this park up. So I know Trustee Jones and I have talked about this, but I would like to see a motion to table this at least to the next board meeting, or until we can get the supporting documents on when this park will be done and how much this park will cost.
All right, so there's a motion to table.
So there was a motion already on the floor. There was a motion and there was a second already on the floor, so that has to be addressed first.
A motion to table can supersede that, but you need a second for the motion to table.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion to table by trustee Williams, second by trustee Sanchez.
And to be clear on the motion to table, it sounded like trustee Williams.
He's waiting for an update.
So to be clear, I'm just waiting for an update on
This was my item. I don't know why I didn't
and
get it.
the commitment. So the commitment can be presented to the board.
Hey, Trustee
Okay.
Williams.
So it's a motion to table,
I get it.
but, so there's no discussion. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
To table to win? To what? For what? What does he need? What do you need? I don't even know.
To get the update in regards to the overall park.
Right.
The whole park as a person.
That's vague as all. What does that mean?
So again, as I said, we just hired people to be the consultants, right? It's a motion. I'm sorry, trustee. So there's a motion to table it. There is a presentation coming next month for the park.
And then at that point, so he's looking to just get more information about I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
The project overall.
Oh, no, that's not what he said. That there's $1 million that has been committed to the parks, and so he's going to get information. Which I've heard this too. I've heard that there's $1 million for the park district that they were given a commitment, and so remember we tabled that discussion till August. So I just want to make sure that I understand what's going on. So we're going to table it until Trustee Williams gets more information about a donation that's going to be received from the park district, and he needs like scopes of work and something else in order to, before he feels comfortable with approving to change out backboards and rims. So he wants to just make sure. So he wants to make sure that within that $1 million, allegedly, that this is not going to be included. Is that what we're looking to see? Because he doesn't want to like double count. That $1 million isn't coming to us. I don't know if he knows that. Like that's the park.
It's not. The commitment is to the park, trustee.
Right.
It's not to the park district. It's not to the village. It's to the park. So It's a table motion. Vote it up or vote it down.
And I heard the motion to table to the next board meeting for additional park project information.
Which is what I said.
And something about $1 million. Did you hear $1 million?
It's more than $1 million.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that's in there too. I want Trustee Williams to come back with whatever's happening with this $1 million, because that might actually bring, this connection about the vision. I would think, unless he's going to go to the park, he's going to have to bring it to the table. That wasn't a commitment. Maybe I know it's toward the parks, but we own the parks.
To the park.
I know, but we own the parks, and the reason why I
Trustee, in all fairness, the Village of Maywood was already part of those conversations. Realistically, it's a vote up or vote down.
I just want to make sure I understood what we were tabling for. So until the next meeting, and Trustee Williams is going to come back with information about the parks and then about this $1 million grant for Connor High School.
It's not a grant.
Or the $1 million.
Trustee,
Okay.
there'll be a presentation at the next meeting.
I just want to make sure I understand what I'm voting.
Okay. All right. Mr. Mitchell.
Table it until, no.
Trustee
Trustee
Lyford.
Lyford.
All right.
Trustee Peppers.
Trustee Peppers.
No.
Trustee Brandon.
No.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right. So we need a motion to return the tabled item to the agenda for consideration action proposal for McGrath Consulting Group in
Mayor.
regards to the comprehensive proposal
Mayor.
of the Maywood Fire Department.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm not even sure why this is even on the agenda or who put it on the agenda, how it arrived to the agenda. When we had our last meeting, our police and community safety meeting, there was a plan that, and I want Jim to chime in because I'm a little puzzled as to how or why we are here again when we discussed a plan and an agreement in place with all parties, including Jim, of what would be the best path to move forward. And so the best path that we had talked about is allow them to collaborate, to work together, and there was some suggestions that were made from the Jim in regards to tap into some other folks that was in the industry that would not cost the village and its taxpayers over $30-something thousand to bring in a firm to research or to assess or do whatever work within the fire department, and without exhausting all of the options. And so, for me, again, and we had a lengthy conversation, very healthy conversation at this meeting. And now we're having a meeting this evening, which is on the agenda to untable us and to bring it back to the table after their plan was devised, discussed, and put in place. And now we're talking about bringing it before we even move forward with the plan that was in place that Jim agreed to, along with the fire chief and his leadership team in regards to coming together to put forth something that wouldn't cost the taxpayers of the village of Maywood over $30,000 to have an assessment done of the internal workings of the fire department. So again, I'm asking Jim, let me be clear, I'm asking Jim, why is it on the agenda after we had the conversation in regards to how we were going to move forward in regards to this issue?
So before Jim answers you said that it was a conversation, so can the fire department and their team speak as to why it's that way?
Good evening.
It should be a green light.
Mayor, trustees, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, there was a discussion at the committee meeting with you guys. Even there was a board meeting when we talked about it. You were supposed to come to the fire department, have a roundtable conversation, discussion with us and the rest of the fire department. All that has taken place, all right? He has cleared all that, and we're here because we came to your committee when we had an issue. So we're here now because he did come and do the things that on our end that we wanted from him, he did come and do. Now, whatever the other procedures are, that's above us, but he did do those things. He did satisfy the things that the department had concerns about. He
did satisfy that in the roundtable discussion that we all had. So he did come and follow up on that part of what we talked about. He did that.
I have a question. So what I'm speaking of is the meeting that I attended in regards to a conversation that was held between myself, the chairman of the committee, Trustee Peppers, the village manager, and the fire chief. So there was a clear conversation, and what was supposed to happen, to my understanding, and this is where I'm puzzled, that it was supposed to come back through the appropriate channels, so that all parties are included and involved in the conversation, and we don't have situations like we had this evening where we're looking like, okay, so what's going on, what's happening, and they're not privy to the conversation, because that's where the conversation, started at in regards to which direction to go into. And so, I'm puzzled, this evening, because I'm like, okay, so.
Yeah, what was the next step?
Yeah,
the next step, we skipped.
Right. Or we did not bring it back to have a clear understanding of, okay, so there was a meeting that was held on this date at this particular time. After this meeting was held, this is the results of it, this is what came out of it, and we feel that based upon the conversations that were held at this meeting, based on whoever facilitated.
Right, there's no conversation, there was no report.
Yeah, no report from it, no email, no text, no. And
so you're saying that that's supposed to go through your committee first? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, because
right, because it was already through the
control over that.
Right, it was already through the committee. So why wouldn't it come back to the committee on some kind of finding, some kind of resolution, any type of information?
Because we set up the
plan. I talked to you the other day about the next meeting. Remember, I was on the phone with you when is your guys' next meeting?
Right.
That's what the conversation was for. All right, when was the next meeting? But then we were told it was on this agenda, so we figured, okay, well, we need to show up and talk because we talked before.
Right.
So we just didn't want to not be here and not stand up because we came and stood up before. Right. So we're not going to duck and hide on that.
Right. It's total curveball.
But yeah, it just the processes. It's the conversation again should have been brought back to the committee, because you had the chair of the committee and myself, the co-chair of the committee, puzzled about, okay, what's happening here, what was the outcome of it, what took place, and we have no information on that. And so for us, it's just like, it's leaving us in the blind to what is going on when the conversation should have came back or updated our next.
Captain Wade, what was the finding
at our
that
next meeting?
You found out from the meeting? What was the?
Well, it's in phases, and to give you guys feedback. So there's no disrespect as far as the procedure or the policy. What took place was a department-wide meeting. We've been trying to do this for 5 years. Everyone in the department was there, what we call a roll call, and we discussed open the concerns of someone coming in as far as evaluating our department. It's not a problem. The issue is weaponized to say that we're not meeting certain benchmarks when there's people that from Northbrook, Winnetka, they don't understand how we operate. So once the facts came out, first of all, I want to compliment you guys for listening and taking it forward and moving forward to get facts, because the whole idea is to get facts and foundation. So we had a harmonious conversation for about an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. There were questions, there was open questions, there were open answers and understanding. And at this point, it is agreed upon that the company that's coming in is first need to get input from everybody on the department. It's not someone that's just going to come in behind a keyboard and just start typing about what's right and what's wrong. You need to come out and assess exactly what we do if they're going to do that. Because we've been assessed before. Point number 2, once they come with their report, there will be another meeting to come together where everybody will look it over and give feedback and input. Point number 3, which is the important part. Because they come back with the report, it don't mean we're going to implement it. All right. The key and the threshold is this: you have a superb fire department. Your stakeholders have no complaints dealing with your Maywood Fire Department. Those are the citizens we serve. Your stakeholders, as far as neighboring departments, now one complaint. In fact, if there's a serious situation, they're looking for us to come and assist them with the situation just at hand. So, in order to have energy or chemistry chemistry. We don't want to violate the procedure. We don't want to be a no-show if something is coming up. And as far as costs and the things that's at your guys' levels, you have to discuss that. We're worried about a person coming with a report and it being weaponized to create issues. And the department is already functioning and meeting the objectives and the standards.
Mayor.
Trustee Brandon.
So what I would do is, I just want to put the train back on track. Okay. If I can, I'm going to ask for a motion to send this back to the Police and Safety Committee so that we can get just a full understanding of what took place because we're blinded by the whole conversation altogether. And so my motion is to table this for our next meeting, which will be in a few weeks from now.
It's still tabled. We would just have to come. If the goal is to leave it at the table, it's already tabled.
The goal, okay,
so if the goal is to leave it at the table and go back to the committee, then we just don't remove the table.
Right. So my motion is to keep this item tabled until
there's no motion needed. Just don't need to motion to table and just remove it. Anybody ask a question?
But there's a motion. That's a motion. But this item is.
Well, the motion would have been to return the table item.
So
it's not a motion to approve the
proposal.
proposal.
Do we have to do anything with this item?
The only thing you should do is if there's a desire to move forward with this vendor or evaluate whether you want to move forward with the vendor, send it back to committee so you can get staff's input.
That's what I want to do. Send it back to committee.
But you don't have to take any action other than that. Refer this back to committee and then let it go from there.
So we're certainly in your pleasure. Just let us know what we have to do to be in order.
Mayor?
No, you guys are fine. We're out of order.
Trustee Sanchez?
What is the major difference between McGrath and this other person, other than the $30,000 monetary value?
There is no other person at this point. There is no other person. We were saying is there somebody else out there that comes from a demographic more like ours that can sit in and do it. But if they're going to come out and they're going to get on and they're going to ride with us and do all the things and follow us and talk to us and see what we actually do, excuse me, and evaluate us on what we do, not what other towns do, because they don't do what we do, but evaluate us on what we do. That was our thing. So we were sure that that's what was going to take place, that they are going to come out, they are going to do that. If they're going to do that, then we're more comfortable with doing this.
So and I know this item is tabled, but again, going back to what my original conversation was in the very beginning of this whole ordeal, we're spending anything over $5,000 or $10,000, especially in the tune of $30,000. I want to see our RFP established because there has to be some other organizations that are out there that can provide the service. But the item is tabled for now, and so we'll have the conversation in an appropriate space, which is going to be at the public safety committee meeting.
And personally, I'd like to apologize to you guys in reference to our communication slip up, so we don't mind.
No, that's no problem. We all work together. Down the we come, just like it's fire call. We come. What's the date of the next meeting?
It's scheduled for March 21st.
March 21st. I will also include, at least my statement. We've been studying before, many studies. One of the renowned studies is New York Fire Department and Maywood, the only two in the nation that are being studied with ALS versus BLS. ALS being advanced life support, BLS basic life support. When you look at the dollars that are involved, and what a lot of the departments now are gearing towards, kind of watching what we're doing, where we keep the dollars down, but the service level is still up. So there's no problem if they come in and just watch what we do, get asked questions, and keep it transparent. And more importantly, that it's not weaponized to cause problems within the department where it's functioning already.
Okay. All right. So thank you.
21st.
All right. So we need to right quick go back to agenda item 5 for the minutes from Tuesday, February 2024. Attorney Schuster got an update.
Yeah, could we do a motion to amend the minutes? I noticed under old business in the minutes, it says no discussion, and that's where we discussed the acceptance of the proposal of the GovHR manager search. and my notes reflect that we went into executive session, we came back out of executive session, and we circled back to that item, and we took action. And my notes indicate that we did not take action on the Baker-Tilly proposal. We took action on the GovHR proposal, motion to approve, and we selected option interim hire. We did not go for the permanent hire, so we did a motion to move forward with a interim hire using GovHR at a cost consistent with the spending authority of the village manager. My notes show that that was a motion by Williams, second by Jones, and it was voted 7-0.
Okay, so can we get a motion to amend the February?
Motion to amend the February minutes.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion by trustee Sanchez, second by trustee Lightfoot. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, so need a motion to go into closed meeting
Mayor,
session.
is there trustee comments?
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's board of trustee comment and comment information, but there's nothing under.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a placeholder there just in case you want to make a comment. You have to actually.
Trustee, if you want to make a
Right, yeah, you want to make a comment. Attorney Jeruzzi, I want to make sure that at our next meeting, you address 12H, the village logo usage policy. We didn't talk about it today, but that is a conversation that we need to have. So I would like to, if you could bring that back, I'd like to discuss that in general. And then also 12I, about a session orientation. I would like to, I don't know if Ms. Banks or if we could set a date, but there's a couple items that I just want to say this publicly that I want to refer to. The committee structure is one item that I'd like to discuss because it's not working well. And part of the reason why we moved from the commission to the committee structure was to address what I didn't, or what I thought to be advisory input. It's not working. It's not working. I mean, just even based on what we've seen tonight, I mean, there's stuff making the agenda that shouldn't. There's things that are making the agenda in the budget that came from the committee that is being voted down. There's, so like it's not getting the type of consideration that it needs. And I would just like to discuss it. And just because of the village logo policy, I believe that is giving the community the impression that certain things are official village items that aren't necessarily official village items. For instance, partisan debates, in our newsletters, there's encouraging people to participate in, partisan debates. There's, with our logo attached on it, there's logos on. There's a lot of things that I don't believe is appropriate, so I just want to make sure we talk on that. And and as I mentioned, the committee structure, I think that needs some deeper conversation. I just wanted to say that because, and I was part of one reason why one of the committee, or our board retreat or whatever got canceled. I think a few people had some conflicts, but those are just topics. And with this park thing as well. I don't know if that's going to be a part of your orientation, but I kind of circled that into just, I put orientation and board retreat kind of in the same bucket, but I'm hoping we can move forward with that. Because I think we need.
Yeah, a couple quick comments. The partisan political event I saw with the village logo, that's something that should come back through if it's going to have a logo on it. Should be talk to the board. That's a board. The manager or the board, approves use of the logo. So, no issue there. The logo policy and all the other policies that govern the board and the appointed elected officials and the village employees, I'll cover that in the typical 2 to 2.5 hour orientation that I do. It can include other things, and what I would suggest is that there are certain topics, like you say, trustee committee structure or operations. If you want that covered specifically, it's in my last orientation, trustee committees. I'll leave it in the PowerPoint, we'll cover it. But if there are additional things that you feel you would like covered that would be of benefit to the community, the village board, administration. Send those comments to me and Lysandra, so we don't do a group chat. We have an open meetings act violation. All the trustees can just funnel what they'd like to see. If there's any specialty items you want as part of the orientation, funnel it to me, Jim Krishke, and the manager, and Lysandra, and I'll make sure I touch upon those things. And then let's try to get a date and time. I do this again at no cost after every election. I'm trying to do it. This is about the third or fourth time I put it on an agenda to try to get a date and time set for everybody. Let's make a push to do it in the next couple of months. Next 45 days, throw out some dates that work for everybody, and let's get it done.
Mayor.
Okay, wait, one thing I want to say, just for a point of clarity, if we're talking about the fact that the February 24th Congressional Town Hall was shared on the newsletter, it was a community town hall. It doesn't say that it's endorsing one candidate or another. It literally says candidates for the 7th Congressional District of Illinois invited to speak. It doesn't say anything with the village logo on it at all. So yes, that was shared in the newsletter because it was literally a town hall for all candidates, regardless of what side you were on.
Mayor.
I just want to be clear on that.
Mayor.
Because there was no village logo on it.
Mayor.
There was definitely a village logo on it. It was absolutely the one that got mailed.
This is a flyer.
No, the one that got mailed absolutely had the village logo on there.
Okay, so you're saying on the top header part, that says on the top, so the subject line item had the logo on it. Okay. No, what I'm saying is it wasn't a full 8.5 line.
But it doesn't matter. Jerusalem has a copy with the village logo on it. And the reason why I take issue with it, because Mayor, because you specifically.
Trustee, you went to the event.
And it was a political event. Because you specifically brought in flyers that had my name on it, and my role as a village trustee, and Attorney Jerusalem was involved in it. You brought in a list of flyers with events that I was doing in the community under my umbrella as a Village of Maywood trustee. And you said that I was utilizing the logo in a political manner. So when I saw it, I almost certainly took issue with it because you're talking about a political event where political candidates are involved in something. You're talking about democratic political events. And furthermore, and that's why I asked, who is reviewing this newsletter? And that's why I sent it to both Jim and Jerusalem. In this role, in our role as a city elected official in the Village of Maywood, we're not parties. We represent both Republicans, Democrats, everybody.
The flyer didn't say Democrat.
And then the other thing we provided to the Democratic organization was the enhance of one of the flyers that you presented in that newsletter. And then the other thing is, what the residents take issue with, because these are just concerns, and I brought it to Attorney Jerusalem and Jim, when we also promote, I'm a Christian, but we represent a very diverse community. So when we're utilizing village or taxpayers' dollars to promote a particular religious organization, to promote any type of political events, functions, or activities, it is clearly out of line and out of order. Now, my picture with the village logo on it, not out of order, not out of line, but when you are hosting, you can say, oh, it was a town hall. That was a political forum. You have political candidates speaking about their positions on matters, and it was like a debate. That's what it was. You can be creative with the title, call what you want to call it. It most certainly was a political event. And then the other flyer was a political event. And so the reason why I take issue with it, because now we're being really light-handed on it. But when we came, we had flyers, and this flyer, and this flyer, and this flyer, and this is unacceptable. Now, what was unacceptable is those political events that I attended one over at Second Baptist Church. Clearly a political event, and if we're gonna utilize the logo how we want to utilize it, let's do that then. Everybody has a free reign. Everybody can do what they want to do with the logo. There's no regard for it or how it's utilized because everybody is can utilize how they want to utilize it. So you move with that same energy collectively, because one sitting elected official on this board does not have any additional power or authority of how to operate within this village. And that's just how it's set up under this form of government. And so, it's just an open reign of how we use it, because
I got you, Steve. I hear you.
so when you see it, I don't want you to just hear me.
No, I want you to understand what I'm
Because
about.
when you see the logo on some flyers that I'm involved in, just utilize the same energy. That's all I'm saying. Have the same energy.
I have no problem
Have the
utilizing
same
the same
energy.
energy.
So
So
just
anything
have
else
the
say,
same
trustee?
energy. And I don't want to hear from Jerusalem or any other attorneys or anybody else about logo usage. And it was clear clearly political events, and now we tapped someone around it.
Let's be clear.
Just use the same
I
energy.
got you.
Just use
So
the same
trustee,
energy.
to be clear.
Use the same energy.
Okay, if you
use the same energy.
okay, I'm gonna use the same energy,
I'm
right?
gonna use the same, because we're gonna have a Republican town hall, and then we're gonna have the logo on that Republican town hall, and bring it back to the table.
Trustee, again, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I will reiterate and I will say, the flyer for the town hall was for all candidates. It was not.
I don't care if it was for every single candidate. It still wasn't.
Do you see how I allow you to speak? Can I just give my response?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the reality is the flyer did not have the village logo on it, but because it's the newsletter, it had the header page of saying what was on it. I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. On the same page,
You don't get it.
on the same page, it had a Village of Maywood logo on it. But there
It was in the village newsletter.
so trustee,
You don't get it. Taxpayers' dollars.
I don't know how many times you want me to say I get it without you rudely interrupting me. Like, I let you speak, and then it becomes this whole rampage
Go ahead.
because of a community event
No.
that's provided, trustee.
Okay.
I can't, you know what? Motion to go into closed session, because it's really not that much to argue about. I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree with what you're saying, because the other flyer does not have the logo at the top because it was a full page.
Motion.
The other one was not a full page,
Second.
and that's the only reason the headline was on it. So you don't even, can I say what we're doing first? So we're going into appointment, C, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. And E, setting the price for sale or lease of property owned by the village. So I need a motion to go into C and E.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by trustee Sanchez, second by trustee Brandon. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Trustee Williams.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carries. Time is 9:43.
Everyone have a good night.
So I can go up there.